Hey, folks on the internet. Hope you're all having a wonderful day, and welcome to Spooky Saturday. It's a just chatting installment where I share some scary stories and delightful conversation with my friends on Twitch. Whether you're here with us live or enjoying the VOD at your leisure, super happy you're here. Today I'm joined by Jotunn. If you're not already,
Hello.
if you're not already subscribed to him on Twitch, you haven't seen his content yet, I definitely would recommend checking it out. Aside from Twitch, Jotunn, what do you do?
I work mostly. I have a full-time job.
I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. I also doodle. I draw. I do some Reddit posts. Same username as my Twitch, if people are looking. I try to be stupid on Twitter, but I mostly just forget to post.
That's fair,
So.
reasonable. I forgot I had a Twitter for like 9 years. Only just recently was like, oh yeah, you have a Twitter. Did you know that? So that's my spiel on the social media thing. I do enjoy Twitter though. Little tweeter bird.
Yeah.
So I know today you have a story that you want to submit. I know I've actually tapped.
If you don't mind, I don't actually want to start with it. I want to have if we have like one or two short ones.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I just am adjusting my music because it's a little bit loud. Doing that. If anyone's in the chat and wants to tell me if the music has improved, that would be great. Yeah, but I know we're just gonna, I'm gonna tell a story. Just, this is the second episode. Last week we had Blast Hub on. So basically how this works is I'll start by reading a story I found on the internet. You can interrupt. We can talk about it during, after as well. And then I can probably knock out a couple short stories, and then you can do yours, and we can just riff on just scary topics as they come across. So Zombified Potato, my significant other, proofed a story, and I had some friends and direct user submitted stories as well. So it's pretty exciting. There is still a chance that this is the oh, thanks, Mysterious Links. Thank you so much for following. Yeah, my brother tied
your picture.
Huh?
The alert was behind your picture there.
It's fine. That's something I can figure out. But yeah, I had some user submitted content. My brother Ty proofed some stuff for me. I'm pretty excited. If anyone sent me like scripts to the B movie or like Herbie 2, wouldn't shock me. But
Herbie 2.
Yeah, Herbie 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna hop in here. Let's just dive in.
Okay. I want to preface some of the stories with I'm a little hard to get with the spooks, and that's not meant to diss anybody in any way. These are gonna be probably pretty good.
Yeah, I know you're a lover of some spooky stuff, but I also know that you're also a skeptic for when it comes to scary, spooky stuff.
I mean, in situation, it's hard to tell yourself that everything's, not going to be paranormal, but outside of that, yeah, I'm like, man, that should not have been as spooky as it was. But yeah, I'm the guy that goes to sleep watching scary video games, so.
No worries. I myself enjoy a nice jump scare before I rest for the evening. Okay, so I've got one pulled up now. It's called How to Bring Up to My Wife That She's Gone Too Far on a Prank.
Oh
Alright,
boy.
so I'm a little new to Reddit. This is on Reddit, by the way, in case you didn't know. Never made an account on here before, mostly just use this to browse some hobbyist subreddits or find links to pirated movies. I've lurked enough to know that a couple of pairs of new eyes on any situation could bring some good insight, so here goes. The last 5 years were tough for me and the wife. It was better for a bit, but yesterday it got seriously weird again. I need someone to tell me whether I'm overreacting or not. My wife, 34 female, is a biotech engineer, and I'm 39 male, a self-employed artist. I mostly do freelance installations, but I've been branching out to murals on the side. Good on you, OP. Um, so we've never really been able to talk to each other about our work. In 2017, she picked up a government contract and had to sign one of those NDAs stopping her from talking about her job at all. Combined with weird hours and long shifts and the time she had to fly all the way out to Santa Rosa for some kind of weekend long conference, it had been really hard to keep anything going between us. Anyone who's been in a long distance relationship or had a spouse or partner relocate somewhere else knows how hard it can be to keep connection going. She was clearly tired all the time, with none of that spark that kept us going through education and the tedious crawl of job searching for the first time. She even came back one week and had a breakdown in my arms about how she wasn't sure she wanted to continue in her field of study anymore, and if what she was doing was right. Like I said, my wife can't tell me specifics about her job, so I assume she was taking the tedium and exhaustion really poorly and just wishes she took a job that was better for her, like mechanical repair. She's always been really into automotive restoration. Anyways, we sit down and we had a good conversation about where to go from there. We ended up going to couples therapy sessions that my wife's colleague recommended, and it was covered by the workplace insurance. Stopped going after 2 sessions because of the conflict with my wife's work schedule. The advice we got was really great. He asked us to think about what we loved about each other and what drew us to each other in the first place. Oh, thanks for following, Amby! We both agreed it was a playful spark in us in college and how easily we'd taken the joke and spin it into an elaborate little world that no one but the two of us were privy to. He suggested that we bring some of that on the spot whimsy back after my wife returned from her conference. So, we started pulling small pranks on each other. I'd spend an hour or two in Photoshop and print out a label. The next day, she'd go to the front door and discovered we'd accidentally received a package of premium grade fresh air that was supposed to be delivered to Atlanta, Georgia. She'd take some of her official workplace stickers and slap biohazard dispose or dangerous if swallowed label on my favorite brand of sunflower seeds. One time she took all my multivitamin gummies out of the bottle they came in and put them in official looking class 5 psychotropes pill container. What? Okay. We'd come to the room and start talking seriously about how strange it was that they found Gruyere cheese on the moon. Couldn't anyone see that it was just branding and it was actually aged cheddar? Some of the stuff was really elaborate too, like I went all out the time with all of our outdated, don't worry, kitchen utensils and furniture to the ceiling so it looked like we were upside down in the house. That is, real quick, that is extensive for a prank. Can you imagine just like I'm gonna take my furniture and glue it to the ceiling? That's a whole
You,
level of.
can you recap who we're pranking real quick for me? Because I had to put an alert out. I forgot to.
No worries. So basically they went to couples therapy and they decided they were gonna start pranking each other. He printed out a label about like fresh air, like premium grade fresh air on a package. She would mark his like favorite sunflower seeds as like a biohazard, or put his
Mm-hmm.
multivitamins in a what was class 5 psychotropes pill container, which I don't know about. I don't know about medicine enough to know if that's a real thing. When I hear psychotropes, I immediately think of LSD. So, and then the last one was where he decided to take the kitchen utensils and all the furniture and glue it to his ceiling to prank her, so it looked like she walked into an upside down house. And for me, I always enjoy a good prank, but that's like crazy. Can you imagine like the how you'd have to get, not so much the work it would take to put it in there, like impressive, very, sticking to it, very proud of OP, but just the amount of work and potential property damage it would take once you have to pull that stuff off the ceiling. That's mind blowing to me, right? Like, I don't
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like wrapping someone's car, but wrapping your own car and having to go undo it later.
know. It's fun in the moment, but then there are consequences to your actions. Okay, let me just do. But I still can't figure out to this day how she did some of the stuff she did. There was this time her silhouette was in the corner of my vision, uh, simply warped for a couple of days, although she looked perfectly normal every time I looked around at her face on. Some kind of foam padding or shaped wig, I guess. Things went great for a while. They got even better after her project wrapped up and she was able to come back home properly and just relax. Uh, she said she'd been given a 3-week paid vacation after the project, which sounded a little strange to me, but I've never been properly employed by a company on a contract, so I'm just glad to have my wife back with me. I asked her again what she'd been working on, but this time she just smiled and told me to ask her again in 10 years. That makes sense because usually NDAs last for like 1, 5, 10 years. I haven't personally seen an NDA, like, this is me talking. I haven't seen an NDA term be longer than 10 years, so that tracks. Uh, we got Indian takeout that night. She gave me all of her madre's curry, which I thought was weird at the time because she's always loved spice. When I brought it up, she told me it was because she was cultivating a new tongue implant that had to incubate for 30 days before it could be harvested. Though, so we had to set off another back and forth romp about various body parts we were growing. We decided my hand was an experimental limb infused with rhino DNA, and I forgot all about it. Anyway, the pranks didn't stop now that she was back at home. I assumed that since we had more time to spend with each other, we'd just, fall back into the normal state of affairs we had before she took the job. But she kept blanking out certain times, keeping me on my toes around the house. She doesn't seem to remember a lot of inside jokes we had back in college. Yo, that ain't your wife, right? That's not his wife. Is it? Like, was she... Is it...
I have an idea of what's going on. I'll pitch it when we're done.
Okay.
Unless you want to hear it now.
I do. I absolutely want to hear it now.
All right. So the class 5 drug label that she put on his pills.
Yeah.
That has to do with how addictive that something is.
Okay.
So ranging between 1, which is most addictive, so that's stuff like heroin, versus like 5, which is like you can just put it down, you'll never know again. It could totally be that that he's not who he thinks he is, rather than her not being who she thinks she is, and what he's been seeing are side effects.
Oh shit. We're gonna see if that... I'm curious to see which one of us is right, or if we're both wrong, or if we're both right to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. She doesn't seem to remember a lot of the inside jokes we had back in college. Once I saw her having what seemed like a pretty normal Zoom meeting with a colleague in her office, but it still weirds me out to think about it. She was speaking straight gibberish at the screen, but he was nodding and talking back like he could understand every word. Some of the pranks aren't really funny. They're just strange, and I don't get what she was trying to go for. I found a micro SD card between the sofa cushions when I was deep cleaning the other day, and I plugged it in to check what's on the inside. It was just a 6-hour shaky cam close-up of what looked like industrial tile, focusing on one of those endless motion flamingo desk toys. And there was nothing but shaky breathing in that desk toy, and my wife's hand reaching out to get it moving again every so often for the entire 6 hours. Just shaking footage of that click-clacking desk toy, like she was afraid to focus the camera anywhere else. Anyway, that's what brings us to what I'm here to talk about. Sorry for the long ramble up there, but I feel like that background is necessary for why I'm reacting the way I am. I got a package in the mail yesterday, and it contained a little USB drive and a handwritten letter from my wife. The letter said it was secure failsafe she had set up with her attorneys years ago, and it was supposed to be sent to her spouse and family members after she didn't check in with them for over 5 years, presumably in the case of death. I was a little wary about plugging in the USB drive, so I googled how to set up a sandbox on my laptop in case it had a virus or something. That's smart. Security is key. I don't need to worry. All of it was just legal wills and records, plus an honestly very sweet photo gallery of her favorite childhood memories, her family, and me, dated from before 2017. I guess she wanted to give me a present and show me the good times we've had together, but why 2017? And am I wrong for feeling like she stepped over our line here? I appreciate the sentiment, but I can't be the only one to feel like the delivery was in poor taste. I'm a pretty nervous person in general. These things have always scared me, and I really didn't like reading a letter from my wife where the first sentence in it was, "If you reading this, I've passed away." I still haven't talked to her about it because I'm not really sure how to bring it up. I'm hoping you guys will have some advice for me. I'm typing this up from my phone right now because I'm still awake and my wife's in bed with me. She's gone to sleep already, breathing deep and even and smooth, but I'm not sure I want to stay with her here for the rest of the night. Mostly because when I sat down to read that letter at the kitchen table, her handwritten grocery list was next to me, and it made me realize that she never used to cross her T's. And that's how the story ends.
So I think yours is more correct than mine by like a lot, based on the additional evidence. Your theory?
Yeah, this is a zombie-proof. This one, it was put on no sleep 6 days ago by user throwaway0294856.
Yeah, that was interesting. I like that. I like how we were kind of guessing whether he was sane or whether it was really happening.
I mean, up until, honestly, it didn't even occur to me that, like, she might not be his wife. Until that very moment when I was like, that's not your wife, man. Because you see that trope in a lot of different, different mediums, like different genres of horror, sci-fi, the whole concept of shape-shifting. You even see it in different, like, folklore, like changelings.
Yeah, the most common analog horror at the moment deals with alternates, which are basically imitators of human life that are presumed to be malevolent. So this is right up that alley. I like it.
I actually, I'm not gonna lie, it took a while to get me. It was pretty rambly at first, but overall, I really liked it. It had the right amount of, like, easing us into a little bit of spook.
Yeah, what
And
I would like to find out with some additional detail, reading into this or hypothesizing on this, is whether or not her death was job related, and whether or not the replacement is job related.
oh, like, if it was a thing where because she didn't check in for 5 years, if she was actually dead or if she was just presumed dead, and they sent in like a replicant or something. Yeah, I don't see any other comments from OP. Really, just there's nothing, like, no further comments in there from the OP. So I guess we'll never know. It's just gonna be conjecture for a little bit. We're just gonna go with it. Okay, well, that was good. I have another one real quick. It's a shorter one. That my brother
Okay.
Tigress, sent me. Let me pull that bad boy up. This one's called A Prisoner of Bliss.
Okay.
Staring out of the window, I can't help but wonder what it would feel like to be free. This apartment is so small compared to what it is out there, the trees and the fields fading off into a gray, hazy distance. To be out there, like when I was a kid, before he stole me away from my family and home. I know I should be grateful. He tells me all the time how grateful I should be. Do you know how many others would kill for what you have? The expensive meals, the entertainment, beautiful bed you love so much. I'm getting like some serious, like Beauty and the Beast vibes right now. Like personally, like that's just um as if these trinkets are paying for my suffering, my imprisonment. Looking out the window, I see the snow falling. I remember it being cold, and I think about what it would be like to be alone out there again, freezing in a blanket of ice. That fear is partly what keeps me there. Once I escaped into the hallway, I made a break for the stairs. He did not like that one bit. I cried for help, my pitiful cries ignored by the neighbors who didn't even bother to look inside, too caught up with their own lives to care about another suffering or even an instant. He says he takes care of me, that I should be grateful. He tells me not to complain, to quit whining. What do I have to cry about? He buys me things occasionally, bribes to distract me from the monotony of my everlasting captivity. A necklace, for instance, which sparkled in the light beautifully. It tracks me everywhere. Oh, okay. It's hard to stay distracted from freedom, so I bide my time. I wait for my opportunity. Observing him, I find out that he comes and goes when he covers the windows and when he leaves them open. I try to find an opening, and I do it. I get out. I escape, but only briefly. The doors are locked when I try to get out through the rear exit of the apartment building, and nobody comes by to open them for me, so I'm left stranded until he finds me there, freezing, cold, and shivering. I'm stuck in the stairwell, doors well sealed against intruders, or in this case, potential escapees. It's as if he chose this building purposely for its security features, for its ability to contain me, but no normal building can contain me. I am a living weapon. What? Oh, okay. He'll find that out soon enough, and he'll live to regret what he's done to me. Tisk tisk, Mr. Mittens. You have been a very bad kitty today, he says condescendingly, lifting me up into his arms against my struggles. No temptations for you after this. It's a good thing you couldn't reach that doorknob, or you might have gotten all the way outside. I will take my revenge on you, John. I will make you pay for what you've done to me. I will be free one day. Ah! That was a good one. I love that. As a cat owner, this tracks. Thank you, Ty. Oh my god, I needed that. That was beautiful. This was on our short scary stories, and it was actually submitted 7 hours ago by user J Group or JRJG Group. I liked that. That was cute.
I had just read in chat Zombie saying, "Wait, is this from the perspective of a cat?" When you said, "There you are, Mr. Mittens," and I was like, "Oh, all the pieces fall together."
We were talking about that yesterday, like the one linchpin key evidence that up until you see it, all the other evidence doesn't match up. Because I was thinking like Beauty and the Beast, like some crazy stuff has gone down, but it's just Mr. Mittens.
Explains why nobody reacted in the hallways.
Yeah, I have a Siamese cat, and she's a very vocal cat. You may sometimes hear her on Zombie's stream, or if we're playing games with other people, through his mic, because if he shuts his door for when he's streaming, she will literally like cry and throw herself at it because she wants to be a part of the stream. I get that. I feel that. Thank you, Tyler.
Sorry, I'm just yawning because I don't seem to ever get enough sleep.
I hear you on that. Right now I'm drinking coffee myself.
Oh man. I had a big mug of it this morning, otherwise I'd have some right now.
We stayed up a little bit last night,
Yeah.
so yeah, I live on some coffee.
I live on the edge.
Live on the edge, caffeinated. That was a really cute story, and I appreciated it. I appreciated that so much. Um,
All
so
right, we ready for me?
I'm
Or sorry, you go.
absolutely no, I'm absolutely ready for you. Let's. I want to hear this. I'm down.
Um. Okay, here we go. The following is a witness account submitted to the FBPI. All personal, geographical, and further related information is classified above level 3. Date of submission, classified. Name, classified. Height, classified. Weight, classified. Eye color, classified. And location, classified. Encounter classification, classified. Priority high. Alright, here we go. Today
Okay.
is Tuesday. Yesterday I was sitting on my porch. I don't like to sit outside very long once night's set, so I was preparing to come inside. Until recently, I had been convinced the little motions at the edge of the tree line were only my imagination, that the worst I'd see was the peepers of a coyote or maybe hear the rustling of a raccoon. All the same, I preferred to be indoors, so I got up and, with one last glance, saw 2 or 3 pairs of gold dots peering from the trees. Coons, I said, almost chuckling to relax myself, then went inside with a little more urgency. Later in the night, I woke up to a couple scratches at the door and a couple fiddles of the handle. Before I could get up to check, though, I heard something topple my trash can. Must have just been those coons, and I fell back asleep. Today is Wednesday. I got up and had breakfast and went to go drink some coffee on the porch. I stopped when I got to the door. It was cracked open. However, after searching the house, nothing appeared to be disturbed, apart from a few crumbs on the countertop that I was sure I'd wiped off the night before. I thought it may have been crumbs from breakfast, which was a reasonable assumption because the cereal box had been sitting right next to it. I grabbed my coffee and started going for a morning walk. As I came to the woods, I felt more unsure than normal, almost like I was about to be part of one of those crime show openers where a couple's just out strolling and to find the body that's been festering all night. I ventured in anyway because, quite frankly, I thought it would have been absurdly unlikely. Turns out I was right that it was absurdly unlikely. Though as I wandered through, my nerves let me notice animal trails that must have always been there, but that I was picking up on for the first time. After about 5 minutes of this, I came to a spot where the grass and leaves almost looked cleared away, and there were about a half dozen holes carved in the dirt. While I was certain it was chipmunks, or snakes, or something of the sort, I found it curious enough to make a mental note to come back with a trail cam. Upon coming back to the house, I found the door cracked open again. I thought maybe I'd just not closed it all the way, but I was pretty sure the wind would have just blown it open, even just crack more, with even with just a slight breeze. Who knows? Maybe the latch needed tending, but it was time to start locking it to make sure. I had some errands to run, so after a show or two on the TV, I left again an hour or two later, locking the door when I left. When I returned this time, though, a few marks on the door caught my attention. They looked almost like little claws. Looking closer, I also found the lower section of the trim was marked up, and the nails were loose on the lowest board of the siding, which itself looked a little chewed. Something was clearly wanting in. In fact, it may even have been several little things. I figured it was time to set some mouse traps, because if I was going to have a rodent problem, the irresistible allure of peanut butter on a shiny, deceptive platter, followed by a loud snap, would tell me for sure. While I was at it, I headed out to put a trail cam by those holes I'd seen earlier. I returned to find a mouse already in the trap. I reset it, added some more peanut butter, and relaxed for the afternoon. Today is Thursday. In the night, sure enough, I heard some squeaking downstairs. As I fell asleep, too, I could hear scrapes and scratches in the walls. Gonna have to set some upstairs traps as well, I thought. Though I was sure it was just a mouse, the sound of it getting louder, creeping closer, nearing the head of my bed kept me up for a bit. Eventually, though, it stopped, and the mouse must have settled in its nest. Today is Saturday. For 2 days, I found nothing. Nothing's triggered the trail cam. None of the traps are full. The scratching in my walls has continued, though, most commonly at night right when I go to bed. I think one's found a favorite spot in the wall just under the window above my bed. I'll check the traps again tomorrow. Today is Sunday. I woke up to the sound of a trap snapping, but all that's in it was a scrap of cloth stained with a dot or two of red that I'm assuming was blood, or I'm guessing was blood.
Mhm.
The peanut butter looks like it had a small stick scraped through it, too, maybe a mouse's paw. In all, about half is missing. There's still no footage on the trail cam. I'll take it down tomorrow if nothing happens. Today is Monday. The scratching in the wall has stopped. A faint odor has been lingering since I woke up. There are several images on the trail cam. Most are the end or edge of whatever's been living in the holes, both sticking out of them and on the edge of the frame, but it's clearly indistinguishable. I guess a bit of dirt got on the lens.
Can I stop real quick?
Yeah.
The holes that he's seeing. The second you brought them up, all I can think about is that little sound bit that's like armadillos keep digging. Little
I don't think I've
holes.
heard that one.
Oh, it's a little sound bit and the guy's like singing about armadillos that are digging holes in his backyard. And that's all. I just wanted to interject that because I keep thinking it's an armadillo, but clearly it's a mouse because he's already seen the mice. Like he's seen the evidence. Alright, that's all I was saying.
Today is Tuesday. The trail cam's been rotated. There's a couple pictures of little cone-looking things sticking out of the holes, and another with what looks a lot like a hand sticking across the lens. I have absolutely no idea what's going on, but whatever it is, the creature looks to be about as tall as my knee at most. The odor is still lingering. It's time to open the wall because this is getting bothersome. I assume today is Wednesday, or maybe it is Thursday. I have been confined to the interrogation room. These people still refuse to tell me who they work for, though they have informed me after confiscating my phone that my social media accounts have all been deactivated, and that for the time being, I am not permitted contact with anyone I know until they've assessed the situation. I am not uncomfortable, though while they assure me this is temporary, I do not think I will be leaving for some time. I guess it's time to finish the story, because if I never make it out of here, maybe these papers will someday. They showed me pictures from the trail cam that I hadn't seen yet. After all, they'd pulled up in the drive as I went to check it. Those images will forever haunt my dreams, and as I type these words, they dance across my eyes. Little hats, little hands, wiry, ratty, unkempt beards coming forth from the ground in droves. One picture was nothing but a pair of shining golden eyes. They tell me I'm lucky to have gotten out when I did. End of record.
They're gnomes!
They gotta be.
Oh my goodness! I didn't even see that. That's amazing. Oh my god. So the bureau documents are.
Yeah. So I skipped a header when I read it out because I typed this up like a actual like report document. The header says property of the Federal Bureau of Paranormal Investigation.
Oh man. That was good. I loved that. I didn't think it was gnomes until the last bit. So, key takeaway, gnomes apparently love peanut butter, and now we all know this. It is canon now. That was good. Kudos for I love that. I love that. Absolutely. Oh my,
Thanks.
that was really good. Because when you said like it's up to my knee, like cone shape, it's up to my knee, my mind was still like, okay, maybe it's like a marsupial, but I can imagine that'd be really creepy if you weren't expecting, like, because most people don't be thinking, you don't look at horse prints and immediately think zebras, so you wouldn't
Zombie
look.
says they almost got his bones.
They almost got. Keenan says you love peanut butter. Hey,
I
Keenan.
mean, I do enjoy peanut butter.
I think unless you're allergic, I don't think I've ever known anyone who isn't allergic to peanut butter who doesn't like it. Country gnomes take my bones to the place they don't belong. I loved that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that was you wrote that. That whole story, you wrote
Yeah,
it.
I wrote it all this morning.
That is beautiful. I love it and I'm here for it. Thank you again for
Yeah, no
sharing. That
problem.
was really cool. So if any of you guys like that content, be sure to check out Jotunn on Twitch because he's super cool.
I don't make content like that on Twitch, though. Fair warning.
He doesn't, but he is really cool.
I do act like a little shit, like a gnome, though.
Okay, I've got two that I want to just share. One of them
Hmm.
was a user direct story. This person reached out to me to provide this story. Very exciting. It's pretty short, but it says my husband says that he has heard of just because it's daytime in the United States and I'm in the comfort of my home. I'm comfortable saying the name out loud, but generally speaking, in my opinion, this is outside of this writing. In my opinion, you shouldn't say the name of things that are spooky. Like say the name of certain creatures, because you will call them to you. That is just like my personal PSA, that I wanted to share before I continued. So my husband says that he has heard a skinwalker right outside of his front door.
Oh, I love Skinwalker stories.
He was sitting in his room late at night. The only person in his house was his mother. She was asleep. When he heard a knock on the front door, keep in mind the front door was across the house from his room, so this knock had to have been loud. This startled him as nobody in his home used the front door other than to move in large furniture. And then he heard the beckoning of his father. The only
This
thing
sounds like
is,
my house.
his father had passed away a few months prior.
This does not sound like my house.
Son's name opens the front door, like it's saying son, the son's name, open the front door for. That's like the father's voice is saying that. Followed by a series of very loud knocks. Knowing the legends of skinwalkers, he closed all of the blinds in his home and stayed in his room for hours with his back against the wall, watching for any sign of movement. Outside of this story, um, Lynx, who sent this to me, thank you. Um, your husband did the right thing because if you heard something scary at night, no, you didn't, and you should not open your door. Get hop back in that. Um, Stayed in his room for hours with his back against the wall, watching for any sign of movement. He listened to the voice of his deceased father for hours until before Rose, it disappeared just as it had shown up.
Diseased. He's got coronavirus. I'm sorry.
Oof, oof. This was the only time that he remembers this happening, but one time was enough to shake him for a lifetime. And I don't know a name. Maybe. Oh, that was just. Yeah. That was a little bit. So, that is a real account. That's a real story that they sent to me. And that's creepy. That's very
Yikes.
scary. Very scary. You hear, like, guess there's been like an uptick in people, especially with technology being the way it is, of people sharing accounts like this or talking about these types of encounters with this particular creature, this particular phenomenon, that mocks, it changes its form into other people to lure people out to eat them, or like it will walk around uh, as a different animal or different creature to lure people out to eat it, which is super unsettling.
Tasty.
Tasty. Um, like,
Making me think of Siren Head.
like in the Appalachian area, they have what's called a not a deer, which it looks like a deer, but it's not a deer. The longer like you like look at it and kind of like perceive it, the more obvious the inaccuracies of this copy of what a deer should look like become apparent. Like you'll be looking, you're like, oh, that's a deer. But if you look back and you actually look at the deer, you realize it's not because its jaw is messed up, its legs are bowed the other way, or it's like way larger than it should be. Um, or like you notice fangs, crazy stuff. Um, and I've had a lot of people in the Appalachian area tell me when I first came down here and as I became like acclimated to the area, that old adage that if you're walking in the woods and you hear something spooky or something scary, no, you didn't, and just keep it moving. So that actually, this is from the Appalachian area. This
Is this
person,
Southern Appalachia? Because
yeah, Southern Appalachia, but like
I was about to say I'm in Ohio. I've never heard of this.
there is like a niche area, in like the Virginia, like Southern
Yeah.
Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, right along that like border area where the Appalachians fall through there. Um, where this sort of knowledge is like stuff like you don't let your kids go out into the woods at night, not because they're bad at being in the woods as children, because also Cub Scouts are a thing, like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, those are things. But typically you do that so that way if they hear someone calling, they don't immediately assume it's you, so they don't wander off and get eaten by the
Mm-hmm.
spookums. Um, so Zombie said, Rot-row Raggy.
Yeah.
Uh, not gonna say I've seen one of those, but I'm not gonna say I haven't. Spoiler alert, I have. The Not Deer. It can leave you a
Oh,
little
actually,
shooketh.
wait. You, I may have heard of this. So, I actually don't know if I've heard of it or not now, because now that I'm looking looking at it, it's starting to looking it up on the internet and stuff. It's starting to look. I feel like I've heard someone say something weird about something like that before, but I don't think they've called it a not a deer, in my
Yeah,
family.
that's a
Which,
colloquial name for like this area that I've heard.
yeah,
But it wouldn't surprise me if different regions experience something similar
I
in
I
their
would
their local lore.
I wouldn't be surprised if my brain's just making up a memory either. But I feel now that my mom's mentioned my grandma saying something about one.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Like when I lived up north, there
Mm-hmm.
was always that like I grew up with stories of uh if something's knocking at the door at night, you don't answer the door. You don't answer the door.
Yeah,
Um, for a lot of reasons. Which I know that
around here
sounds
it's
like
because they'll break in.
yeah, I mean like as an adult who's had my house broken into, not the one I'm in, but like when I
Yeah.
lived in like a metropolitan area, um, like break-ins are not uncommon in the world, because some people, when they're in a situation and they're desperate to do something, or those acts of desperations despite the circumstances of their lives that lead them to that conclusion that breaking into someone else's house is like morally acceptable. Um, it is definitely it's unnerving, but as a kid I remember distinctly my dad telling me, "You are if you hear knocking on the door, we're not expecting anyone. So if you hear knocking on the door, close the windows, don't answer. You don't answer." And part of that is he's native, he's an indigenous person, so it
Hmm.
wouldn't surprise me if part of that whole concept had to do with like things that they were taught as kids and their grandparents experienced as kids because knocking on the door, kid answers, missionaries scoop him up and throw him in a school. Like but there's also a lot of different indigenous cultures have a lot of different lore about creatures that take children or that carry off people, um,
Yeah,
by luring them
and
out. It's definitely creepy.
in parts of Europe, trolls both serve as changelings and kidnappers,
For sure.
and sometimes they're just totally benign, and it's a witch hunt.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to be said, that whoever tells the story sets the tone of that. So if you're
Hmm.
hearing an account of someone who sees a creature out in the wild and immediately makes a judgment call that they're a bad thing, they're going to fit whatever actions they see into their worldview that that creature is bad. In this case, if trolls or gnomes are walking through the woods and someone doesn't like how they are, they're immediately going to assume that they're up to nefarious stuff when
How do
maybe
you
the
know I'm
troll was just
not?
chilling. Maybe they're just like taking a walk in the woods. I like walking through the woods. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of there's a lot of that. But yeah, I've seen an odd ear before.
I'm
And
nefarious. What?
the response is no, I didn't. I didn't see that. I kept my ship moving. It was beautiful. So again, thank you so much, Linksy, for sharing that personal account. I definitely appreciated knowing that. I hate that it happened, but I loved it. Content wise, it was great.
Yeah, someone I hung out with recently, I forget who specifically. I think it was, I have an idea who it was, but I'm not going to name drop. Was
Okay.
telling me about how their parents came from a region with like a ton of skinwalker lore. And that, okay, now I'm not sure if I read about this or if I talked to this person, but, someone in their community got excommunicated as a witch for supposedly being caught skinwalking.
That's actually, that ties into there are definitely certain indigenous cultures that's where they believe skinwalkers originated, by shamans who partook in shaping into people, in order to gain power over them or control over them, or even
Yeah,
just for a little. Maybe it's it's definitely interesting, because there's also some lore that skinwalkers became what they are because they were cannibals,
that one
and by
is Wendigo.
enacting in some in
Is
it's nuanced because there are definitely different accounts in different regions and different cultures
hmm
have different names for things. I'm not saying that they're the same thing,
No, I was
because
relating it.
yeah, but no, for sure, like the whole, like that one concept that a Wendigo, which again, I'm only saying the name of it because it's daytime. I'm in my house where I am safe.
Oh, I've said it at
Personally,
night dozens of times.
personally,
I
I
don't
don't.
care.
Personally, and this is again just me. PSA. Um,
Yeah.
my PSA that I give to people, they can take it with whatever they want. But generally speaking, you should not, in my opinion, say the names of specific creatures, for it could call them to you.
I
But
have a different opinion about it. The reason being, okay, so this was a twist in the plot of Harry Potter. It was in being afraid to say something's name, you give it that power.
that's also that's a valid thing. I mean, there's even, if you're thinking about, like, if we branch off into esoteric thought, where there are certain creatures, mythological, lore wise, local, or even just like spiritual beings that come across into our plane of existence. There are some aspects where if you say that thing's name to it, it removes it from you. So if we think about that, we could even twist it to like, they are going to want you to not say their name. So they would create that fear around saying their name in order to protect themselves. But
I would like to add to that. You won't catch me alive in Phasmo saying that thing. The ghost's
yeah,
name.
hell no. Nope.
You won't catch me alive because I'll be dead if I say it.
Walk into house and phasmophobia. I'm like, oh, it's a summoning circle in Edgefield. What's so common about that? And
You're
then
like,
someone
what up,
mics
Linda
over.
Smith? It's your boy.
What's up? It's always the Helens get me. If the ghost
Oh
in
my
Phasmophobia's
goodness.
name is Helen, she's coming
You're
for me.
you're making me think of so you know the like the meme of calling people Karens and Beckys and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend and I were joking that Helen is the after death incarnation of a Karen.
Oh god. Oh, I gotta compose myself. Thank you for that. Can't unhear it now. Can't unring that bell. No, playing Phasma with Zombie, he will walk in if we're not getting evidence. He'll walk
Yeah.
in, and you've heard him where he just like starts going off, and he's and he just starts saying its name and like taunting it to be like, "Come on, get me."
Yeah, there
And he
was
never dies.
we were all playing the prison. He was walking around saying its name, and I was like, "You should probably stop saying that. It's hunting right now." He's like, "Yeah, but it's over there. It's not coming for us. It's killing Bunny. we're safe."
That's
The
fair and
ghost
reasonable.
ghost killed both of you guys, and then came over and strangled him in the same hunt.
To quote my friend, Big Halls, when you fuck around, sometimes you find out.
Yeah.
Oh, oh man. I have another one real quick. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's
Let's get back to this
let's
actual
dive back
spookies.
in. Let's get into this. This one is called There's a Black Spot in My Vision and It Won't Go Away.
Oh, I have some theories already.
I have some theories. Let's see what's going on. I was 6 when I saw a black spot in my vision for the first time. At first I thought it was a stain on the wall. However, when I waved my hand in front of it, the splotch remained, passing over my hand. Weirder still, when I moved my head, the splotch stayed fixed to its location, as if it was an actual object. Being a young child, I didn't tell my parents about it, and just assumed it was one of those weird quirks that happened to everyone. It wasn't until later that night, when I was reading comic books with my flashlight, that it piqued my interest enough to investigate. I remember navigating through my house using a wind-up pig flashlight. Oh my god, that's cute. Um, for contrast, and watching the black splotch grow bigger. Nowadays, I would compare that experience to moving towards a marker in a video game. But back then, I had no frame of reference to pull from, and it felt like magic. I made my way down into the basement, where the black splotch got even larger and took on an asymmetrical shape. When I walked into the laundry room, I saw that the splotch was being emitted from something inside the dryer.
Oh dear.
For the first time, the black splotch was making me nervous. It was past my bedtime, and being up close to the dark, it felt more sinister. I circled the dryer for a few minutes, trying to will myself to look inside it until I heard someone coming. I figured that whoever was down there must have also seen the black splotch as I had, so I hid. I waited crouched by the water heater, watching as my mom stepped into the basement and walked straight to the washing machine. I expected for her to look over at the dryer or show some indication that she saw what I did, but she didn't react at all. It was at that moment I realized that I was the only one who could see the black splotch. After my mom started the washing cycle, she walked over to the dryer. I held my breath in anticipation as she reached in and pulled out the pile of clothes. The black splotch moved with them as she dropped the clothing pile into a laundry basket and carried it from the basement. I followed her all the way upstairs, where she poured the contents of the laundry basket out onto her bed and began folding them. Garment by garment, she sorted through the pile, getting closer to the black splotch. What would happen when she touched it, I wondered. Would it hurt her? I wanted to step forward and do something, but I was petrified. Finally, she reached it. The black shape moved upwards with her hand. And then it stopped. The darkness disappeared, and my mom held up a pair of red panties. As I would later learn, my dad had been cheating on my mom. The red panties had belonged to his mistress. When they accidentally made it into the dryer, that had been the smoking gun, and from there my parents were divorced. My mom got custody, and my life changed forever. After that experience, I was understandably terrified when I noticed the black splotch in my vision again. I hid in my bedroom, watching the splotch as it moved around in my backyard, and I tried to pretend it wasn't there. When my mom went outside for one day, she walked back towards the splotch. I broke down and ran after her crying, but it was too late. My mom came back inside carrying a muddy orange kitten. Strangely, nothing bad had happened, and the cat just ended up being my best friend over the next 16 years until he passed away. I began to understand that the black splotch isn't good or bad, it just marks things that are going to significantly change my life. I've seen the black splotch many times since then. In middle school, I was more than a little disturbed when I saw the black shape of someone moving through the school towards my classroom. But then the door opened and the strange blackness disappeared, and the teacher it had covered ended up starting my interest in the career of computer science. In high school, the black shape that I had seen driving through town ended up being my dad's truck, one he was driving drunk. He ended up paraplegic after the crash. That's awful. That's not good. In college, I noticed that the black splotch marking the shape of a girl walked into my astronomy class. She later would become my wife. The instance has always been the same. I turn around or move my head in some way, and I see a black splotch. From there, it's a matter of time until the object or person covered by the splotch enters my actual line of sight. Cannot talk. I'm so sorry. um, when that happens, the blackness disappears, and whatever it was covering will change my life. I know technically everything you interact with changes your life by some degree. The black splotch, however, only really signals that the change in my life is significant and immediate, which is why my encounters with it have been so rare. In terms of superpowers, it's rather useless, but I don't know, maybe one day I'll see a black splotch on my testicles and I'll be able to save myself from some serious medical problems. But for now, the only thing is that it lets me do some emotionally prepare. Ugh, I cannot talk. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna take a sip of this. This is coffee. Caffeine makes me go.
Ima- Imagine waking up and going, "Oh shit, I can't see my balls."
Oh no! Something. Oh man, this reminds me of like the Xbox like the little thing that's like achievement unlocked. Like
hmm
oh god. Oh man. Uh, needless to say, 2 months ago, when I looked down at the white tiles at work and spotted a black dot, I was a little scared. Not necessarily terrified, but I wasn't ready for another ordeal. See, I was in a pretty good place in my life, so the idea of a big change wasn't something I wanted in any form. The black dot was tiny and almost directly below me, so I tried to reassure myself that it must be work related. Maybe it was a hard drive containing a revolutionary new neural network architecture. Maybe I was about to be fired. I wanted to rush down to the building's lower levels, but I was still pretty busy. It wouldn't change my life no matter what. So there was no point in oh, it would change my life no matter what. There was no point in rushing things. After completing a frantic work session, I managed to clock out a little early and stepped into the bathroom again, staring at the floor tiles. It's often hard to spot the black splotch, especially if it's small, so putting it against contrast helps. However, when I stood in the same place I had stood earlier that day, I couldn't find it. The dot had disappeared. I looked around, feeling unnerved. Had the object entered my line of sight? at some point during the day, neutralizing the blackness. Usually I'd notice something like that, but perhaps it was just so small that it managed to get into my line of sight undetected. After looking at all the bright tiles in the bathroom, I called it quits and I went home. But the next day I saw it again. I was standing in the exact same place at nearly the exact same time in the bathroom when I noticed the tiny black dot on the floor. Only this time, it was a little bigger. I stared at it and I put my hand over it and watched the black dot pass over my hand, confirming that it was my quote unquote power. At that moment, I decided I couldn't wait like yesterday. The dot was directly below me, so I supposed it was probably somewhere in the lower levels of the skyscraper I worked in. Ignoring the fact that my team was waiting for me in a meeting room. Oh, oh no! That's bad call, bad call. I ran for the elevators and headed down to the ground floor. Unfortunately, once I got to the lower levels, I had lost it again. And my boss was mad. And I had to work late. I left work in a bad mood. I still didn't know what the next event was, and the way it was eluding me was a little unnerving. When I picked my wife up from the observatory, she immediately noticed something was off. Are you having one of those feelings again? She said as she sat in traffic. I nodded. I had never specifically told her about the dynamics of the black splotches, but I would tell her I was having a strange feeling about something big that was about to happen, and so far my accuracy had been proof enough. Well, hopefully it's something good, right? Like maybe you'll get a promotion, or she looked at her stomach. It's not that. I laughed, looking over. I know that at least. And then he puts a side note in that he looks at her belly every night, but he is not seeing it. That night, I found myself laying restlessly watching videos on my phone, trying to keep myself distracted from my racing thoughts. When I was at work, I had imagined it being a hard drive or maybe a letter, but as I lay in bed trying not to wake up my wife, the thoughts of a gunman or a bomb ran through my mind. Maybe I should call in sick tomorrow, just to be safe. After wrestling with that idea for a bit, I finally decided a day off would actually be in my best interest. I rolled over and I put down my phone, pulled the covers off, sat up, and froze. Something was wrong. I had a prickling feeling on the back of my neck, as if someone was watching me. I turned my head around, scanned the room, but I didn't see anything. I still felt unsafe. I looked over at my wife sleeping peacefully and grabbed my pistol from the drawer and crouched down to the back of the door. Do people just sleep with pistols next to their bed? Is it a thing?
Some people sleep with them under their pillow.
See, as a person who's more into blades and swords, like for home defense and also just in general, that's freaking weird to me. Like, so many things could go wrong with a firearm just chilling next to your bed.
Yeah, but with the blade, you actually have to encounter what you're going after.
But it has to encounter me as well.
Yeah, I don't keep any weapons mainly because honestly, I want to survive, and I survive by healing over.
That's yeah, that's
um, but if I did, I would have to have a pretty big pair of balls to think whoever's being malevolent in my house is less prepared than I am. You know
well,
what I mean?
I mean,
Like I'm
I've
not
woken
trained. I will make a fool of myself.
I woke up. I This is when when I lived in that metropolitan place where people were breaking into
Hmm.
my house. For the most part, they did it when I wasn't there, which sucked. But one time I was asleep and I heard someone in my living room. And at the time, the person who was also living there, I was like, "Go check that out. Like, what's going on?" And there was talking because this person was trying to talk with the burglar, like reasonably, but I I was not about that life. And I was like, "Why is this taking so long?" And I
Yeah.
slept with. At the time, I didn't have knives in the house because I had a cat who was very adventurous. His name was Tawny. But I went out and full disclosure, I was in the buff. I went out with a pipe that I had to secure one of the windows. And I just walked out with the pipe ready to brain the dude. And he looked at me and he was like very shocked because it's shocking, I guess, when you weren't expecting someone to come out naked brandishing a weapon. And I was like, you better just get out of my house while you can. to which he immediately skedaddled. So yeah, that's my side story.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's all. I don't know why I just want to tell that story, but there we go. Let's get back to this guy in the black splotch. um, I still felt unsafe. I looked over at my wife sleeping peacefully, grabbed my pistol from the drawer, and crouched down back to the door. Had someone been in the room with me? I swore I had seen something out of the corner of my eye, but perhaps not. Maybe my paranoia about the black splotch was finally getting to me. I traced my eyes over the ground, looking for any sign, but I saw nothing. I calmed down a bit, sitting in the corner. I was ready to set the gun down and go email work and go back to bed. I leaned my head back. I could see the black splotch. I felt like someone had punched me in my gut. How was this possible? I blinked and shook my head, trying to convince myself I was imagining things, but the splotch stayed still, staring down at me through my ceiling. I frantically waved my hand in front of it, hoping it would disappear or my hand would pass over it, but of course, it remained. Somehow, it was hovering over my house. I wanted to run. I was more terrified than I'd ever been of a splotch, but I knew that was pointless. I stared up into the inky darkness, feeling pins and needles in all my limbs, and I came to a decision. I gripped my gun. If I couldn't flee, I would fight. That line right there reminds me of those workplace active shooter videos. Like if you work in a corporate world, they make you like watch the little video, and it goes, if your first prerogative is to run, if you cannot run, you must hide. If you cannot hide, you have to fight. Um, that's what that reminded me of. And I also,
So so something I've picked up on. It was below him during the daytime and above him at night.
yeah.
So it's an outer space.
You think it's outer space?
I wouldn't be surprised if the meteor coming to end the world and it's so small because of how far away it is.
Yo, that I didn't even think of that. That's. Whew, let's see if you're right, man.
Zombie said, and it got a little bigger on the second day.
Oh, it did. It did get a little bigger. Oh man. Okay. 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 Cool. All right. I ran through the house, eyes locked on that black splotch as I stumbled towards the door because he's looking up. I
Hmm.
didn't know what I would do when I got outside, but I was ready to face it. I stumbled into the entryway, tripped over some shoes, and I almost set my gun off. That's fine. My man, if you. Okay. Okay.
Why is
Listen,
your finger on the trigger as you're
why
running
is
through
your
the
finger
house?
on the trigger? And if you're
That is one
running
of
it.
the four pillars of firearm safety. Finger is off the trigger unless you're
Yes,
ready.
and I'm sorry,
You're ready to shoot.
if you're running and you can't see your target yet, um, and you don't think it's gonna be immediate, maybe with the safety on. Maybe with the safety on. Uh,
Yeah, two of the four pillars of gun safety are unless you are ready to shoot. Or no, three of the four pillars are unless you're ready to shoot, your finger is off the trigger. If you if you if you are carrying a loaded firearm, even if it's or you treat every firearm as if it's loaded, even when it's not, and as well as only ever point it at something that you are totally fine with absolutely destroying everything in front of and behind of it.
yeah, because that's bullets go. They go fast,
Yeah.
obviously.
So this fool is breaking three of the four gun rules
Running while staring
at
into the
least.
sky with a loaded gun, and it almost went off because
Uh-huh.
he tripped, so safety's not on. Um, bold move, bold play, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
Yeah.
After reorienting myself, I pulled myself to my feet and grabbed the front door, flinging it open, and stumbling out into the night, my gun pointed to the sky. That was strange. All the energy was knocked out of me in an instant. I was looking up at the exact angle I had been seeing the splotch, but now I couldn't see anything. I should have been able to see the object. I should have been able to see what was going to change my life. but I couldn't. All I saw were stars. I felt dread build in the pit of my stomach, far worse than the terror I had felt rushing towards the splotch. I think you're right, actually. I think that's what it's gonna be. Um, my mind still couldn't accept that I didn't see anything above me, and I swung my pistol around wildly in the air, es- expecting to see something hovering above me. So he ran outside, in his night clothes, tripped, almost blew his gun off, like, and now he's in his backyard swinging wildly with a loaded pistol that he may or may not have a trigger finger on. His neighbors must love him. Um, all right, I'll get back in here.
I'm surprised he's not injured himself yet,
Right.
especially with all the tripping.
It do be like that sometimes. And yet it seemed I was alone. It was a quiet night, and the only sounds I could hear were my breathing and the crunch of my footsteps through
Oh,
the
you know what it
grass
might
and
be.
dried leaves. Hmm?
Here's another here's another thing that it could be: news of other intelligent life, and that's the planet that they're on.
Oh, so like, let
Or
me.
or or instead of a meteor, it could be aliens in transit.
Oh shit. That
Anyway,
that no, that could
anyway, I
totally.
want to know what it is. Keep
I
going.
know. I want to know what it is. Okay. Uh, it all felt wrong. I looked around me in the dark trees surrounding my front yard. Oh, he's in his front yard now. Then back up the stairs. Where had it? Maybe he ran out to his front yard. That's kind of worse, though. In my mind, that's worse to be spinning a gun around in your front yard.
Ima- ima- Imagine just spreading the blinds apart in your window with your fingers, and you look out, and your neighbor's just running around in a craze, doing circles in his yard, waving a gun
Yeah, like my dad will wake up
in
in
the
the middle of the
middle
night
of
and
the
grab
night.
water.
Like,
Yeah, like he could be like his neighbor just like grabbing a night glass of water. Here's a weird like because he tripped pretty loudly into his front door. He looks out the blinds and sees the neighbor in his boxers just swinging a gun around. Oh,
at some point in the sky too, just staring at some point in the sky. Imagine that would make me curious enough to come out and look with them, and I'd be like,
like
but
Harold,
like
what the
I
fuck
would.
are you doing, my guy? There's something in the sky. No.
Harold, you want me to call
You want me
the
to call
rehab?
someone? Like, what's going on? Okay. Um, I looked around the dark trees surrounding my front yard, and then back up to the stars. Where had it gone? I knew I had seen it inside the house, unless. And I didn't want to believe it, yet I saw no other explanation. I turned my phone's flashlight on and reached my hand out in front of me. I shined the light on the back of my hand and moved it across the expanse of my. Where'd he put his gun?
In his waistband, pointing at his. Okay, keep
Where
moving.
that is. All right, cool. Harold. Oh, I've named this man Harold. That's probably not his name. Uh, I shined the light on the back of my hand and moved it across the expanse of my vision. The black splotch passed over it. I had a clear line of sight into the night sky. There were no clouds. What was the black splotch? Still covering something. I frantically tried the experiment again, hoping I had been imagining things. The same thing happened. I dropped my hand to the side and stared upwards, nothing but stars. The black splotch blended into the night sky around them. I took several pictures of the exact spot that the splotch was in the sky, and I ran back inside. I didn't go back to
Oh my
bed.
goodness, zombie!
I like to
I like
imagine.
to imagine he's also naked or wearing very little since he jumped out of bed and went straight outside. I mean, if it were me, I would be in my underpants.
So OP, who we've decided to name Harold, canonically in this telling of it, runs outside in his boxers or his briefs with a gun into his front yard, swinging wildly, probably muttering like, "Where the fuck is it?" And then decides to put it into the band of his.
Keeps being convinced that it's moved, but even though he's reaffirmed like 6 or 7 times, it's still in that one spot.
Yeah. His poor neighbors, anyone who's up to witness this is probably like, man, that guy's bonkers. I
Isn't there
stared.
isn't there a movie where Daniel Radcliffe was doing the same thing? No spoilers. We'll figure out in a moment.
No spoilers. No spoilers. I stared closely at the stars in my photo. Oh wait, no, I did something else. I went too far. I didn't go back to bed. Instead, I rushed to my computer and downloaded the pictures off my phone onto my desktop. I remember the queasy, panicked feeling as I opened the image folder and pulled the pictures of the night sky into full screen. All I saw was a dark, grainy photo of barely visible stars. I stared closely at the stars in my pocket, no, in my photo, but it just looked like any other photo someone might take at night. What was the splotch trying to show me this time? I ran the photo through contrast filters in Photoshop, messed around with all sorts of different levels. Hell, I even ran it through an AI photo enhancement program. Nothing. This didn't make any sense. I had a clean line of sight. I could see the stars, some of them hundreds of light years away. Why the hell couldn't I see what was making the splotch? Was this splotch somehow not covering anything? Or was it covering something invisible? All the other incidents, the splotch had been so straightforward. What are you doing? I spun around and saw my wife standing behind me, looking confused. She probably got a text from the neighbor being like, hey, you should probably check on your husband.
Lol.
Sorry, I went outside and I thought I saw something in the sky, so I took a picture, I said, gesturing to the photograph on my desktop. Oh, she stared at the computer screen. Do you see something? I asked. No, but that does look familiar, she said, sitting down in front of the computer. That wasn't surprising, after all, because she works in an observatory and has a PhD in astronomy. Yeah, that was, yep,
I
the
totally
dead
forgot
mentioned
about that.
I decided to go get a glass of water while she studied the photo, and I headed into the kitchen. I'm not sure if I remember the exact moment. Maybe it was when I turned on the light, or maybe it was when I saw the ripples of the water in the pot left over from dinner. It all kind of hit me at once. I saw in my mind's eye an object traveling through space. Rays of light barely... It is a fucking meteor.
I got it. I called it.
Rays of light barely outran the object as it traveled near light speed. Oh wait, that's
Near light speed. Wait a second.
Oh. The dark splotch had always covered Earth-sized, understandable objects, but what if it was different now? Light might have had a speed limit, but my dark blotch power was supernatural, so it wouldn't have been bound by the laws of physics. What if the reason I couldn't see the black splotch was covering is because the light from the object hadn't reached Earth yet? I dropped the glass and I stumbled back into the office. Okay. We're gonna ignore the broken glass. I felt powerless. I had to talk to my wife. When I stepped in, she was already turned around facing me. I just realized where I recognized that area in the sky.
Alpha Centauri, I betcha.
That's where Tabby Star is located. What's Tabby Star? I said, trying to keep my voice level. Well, it's this star that's been dimming mysteriously. A few years ago, there was a bunch of weird theories about what might be causing the dimming, but most scientists are pretty sure it's just like a ring of dust. What were the weird theories? Well, a lot of people thought it might be like an alien megastructure, but that seems too far-fetched to me. She yawned and stretched her arms above her head. You look tired. Let's just go to bed and worry about some weird stars in the morning. The black splotch is nearly 10 times larger now, and shows no sign of slowing down. Given its size and the amount of time, it's been visible whatever the splotch is covering easily, larger than our sun, is probably larger than any other star in the known universe. I don't know what's going on Tabby Star, but I think I'll find out soon enough, and so will everyone else.
So it was kind of all the theories, but bits and pieces rearranged.
That was satisfying. This, again, is the story. There's a black spot in my vision, and it won't go away. This was posted on the subreddit No Sleep 5 days ago by user Titty Slayer. Nice. Very nice.
Oh, oh.
Oh god. Okay.
What's in a name?
What's in a name? No, actually, I found this quite enjoyable. Uh, definitely was a thrilling experience. I I really enjoyed the bit where he was just like being crazy and then just breaking glasses in his kitchen. Uh, just breaking stuff, being crazy. But that was good. I
So,
liked that.
so this is really happening to Tabby Star, by the way. And the running theory is that a moon around it disintegrated and bits and pieces come across it every now and then.
Wait, so Tabby Star is a real thing?
Yeah, yeah, it is. And
Shit.
yes, it really did start having weird dimmings. I do remember hearing about this. People were postulating, is that a word, where they were thinking it was some people were like it could be a Dyson sphere, first ever recording in the universe, and people were like, yeah, based on the alien life paradox, it's equally as likely that it's absolutely nothing of the sort, and
A
that
Dyson sphere is
probably has to do with celestial bodies, um being like a planet or a moon or something that they didn't know about.
okay. I pose the question to you. Do you do you think aliens are a thing?
I It kind of falls in with Sasquatch for me. I don't think there's any evidence to believe so, but I am totally on board with jumping to a yes as soon as there is evidence.
That's a fair and reasonable point. I mean, you think with how
'Cause
vast and continually expanding the universe
I
is.
wouldn't be surprised if it does exist. In fact, that's what I was referring to earlier. There's an alien life paradox. I think it's either Stephen Hawking or one of his buddies was talking about how it is both 100% and 0% likely that life exists elsewhere in the universe, and that in itself is a paradox. So,
Schrodinger's alien, if you
were
will.
you about to say Schrodinger's anal beat? What? But yeah, so assuming if we take an assumption that has no proof and nothing to back it, if you assume the universe is infinitely wide, that means somewhere out there an exact copy of you exists, which would probably because of you only get so much information before stuff repeats. Should the universe be infinitely wide like that, that would prove that aliens exist. The next closest thing, because we can only observe the observable universe, is that aliens might exist. And until you have evidence of processes that are made only by life, there is always a more likely explanation.
Right, and I mean, the whole idea of life other places in the universe, there's definitely schools of thought on it, which I always find interesting. And
Hmm.
for me, like when you hear alien, the word aliens, you think of intelligent life.
No, I think of bacteria, but yeah,
Think of
most
back,
people
yeah, but
think
like,
of
yeah,
intelligent life.
but like you make a valid point though with bacteria. Like, of course, it makes logical sense that some minute form of life has to exist somewhere else, um, in whatever shape it takes. And you also make a valid point that we can only observe so much, in our limited scope with the resources we have. Um, so building off that, we can only see what we can see. And we can only conjecture on what else lies beyond our scope of vision or observance. It's super fascinating. We totally riff on that all day. I know you had mentioned um previously there was a Kepler thing. What was that about?
Kepler thing. What are you talking about?
Um, it was a thing. Hold on. I'm not crazy. Oh no, Kelly Hopkinsville encounter. That was something different.
Yeah, that's that has to do with a paranormal sighting in Kentucky.
Oh, okay. 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 Um, so
Yeah, I kind of have a couple more points to add on the finding
no,
life in the universe thing.
absolutely. I'm here
So,
for it.
one of them being there's to this day people are uncertain if we've already found life from Mars. There was a meteor uncovered in Antarctica that doesn't in and of itself prove that life exists, but contains trace markings that suggest it may have had bacteria on it at one point. And the meteors from Mars.
Oh. So like something struck Mars and
The
it created a meteor?
so this actually happens all the time that debris from Earth goes to Mars and debris from Mars comes to Earth. Some of which are less than a decade old, some of which are millions of years old. This particular meteor, though, the reason it's so hotly debated is the first person to find it and suggest that it had life. Um, was basically finding evidence to fit his theory rather than making a theory from the evidence.
Okay, so he didn't go in objectively.
So
It was
there's
entirely
there's
subjective.
there's no DNA there, and there's no traces of like physical traces of the life itself. It's what's called a if it were a fossil, it would be what's called a trace fossil. So that's stuff like for dinosaurs, for example, that's poop, nests, etc. Stuff that's not of the organism itself, but
A
is a
byproduct.
sign is a sign that it was there at some point. And without the actual like identification that it couldn't have been created by another process. Say, for example, you found dinosaur poop. You can't say that that was like some random rock. It's quite literally like a stick of poop. um,
Zombie. Zombie said show me the poop in chat.
um, the other issue is like going on that. There's a bunch of like microscopic grooves in the rock that look like it could be bacteria, but it also looked like it could have been bubbles. It could have been glacial movement, all kinds of stuff. Because remember, this was found in Antarctica. The other thing being, no actual life was found on it.
Okay, so it was just like byproduct
So
or
yeah, it's a byproduct of something, but they don't know if it was of life or geologic processes or even environment.
yeah, because they see
Um,
in my brain, my
the
first thought is how do they know if it something that originated on it versus grew on it because it chilled on our atmosphere.
yeah, yeah, exactly. They don't even know if it was like some geologic process that was exposed from burning through the atmosphere.
Science is wild, yo.
The other thing, speaking of you mentioning not knowing if it was from Earth or from Mars, life-wise, I'm fairly certain some people have thought about before that single cell life is already so incredibly diverse on Earth that I wouldn't be surprised if we do ever find single cell life elsewhere, that it's the what we have here is common enough through evolution that we'll find something identical and indistinguishable from what we already have here, at least in terms of bacteria. So it is entirely possible that we found aliens, but they already existed on Earth because they convergently evolved to be identical. Um, does that make sense?
No, that actually makes sense. That tracks for me.
Yeah, and then on the other thing too is invasive species. We are fairly certain because life has survived so damn well on Earth despite multiple attempts to snuff out all life on the planet, that it will probably kill anything that it encounters. So the other possibility is that we'll just find something that came from Earth, either when we landed or landed before us and took over before we got there.
Oh shit.
So we could think we've encountered an alien, but really it's Earth life that's managed to survive on the planet.
Because of the stuff that
Carried
leaves
over.
Earth.
Yeah, for example, like Mars has not only less of an atmosphere, it has a carbon dioxide atmosphere, both of which are not very good for burning up meteorites.
That and the atmospheric pressure, like the density of it, is so much less than the density of Earth's atmosphere. Anything that would have developed from a base cell, if we're just thinking, if we're doing this as a thought experiment, any single-celled organism that came from Earth and that it would evolve naturally in that environment, based solely on the atmospheric pressure alone, not necessarily about the different carbon, nitrogen, oxygen mix that would be there, it would look farther into the evolutionary change. It would look so vastly different from things that would have evolved from the same kind of single-celled organism on Earth. It would look so different. Like the two end products, if you go down the chain of evolution, like that same number of chain on Mars would look so vastly different from people, we wouldn't be able to recognize that it was the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The there's also a lot of stuff from Earth, and it would probably be the case of other alien life. Can't survive in the vacuum of space, like the cells just explode.
Yeah.
Is the other reason why it's maybe unlikely, but not impossible for life transferred through natural spaceships, meaning like meteors, comets, etc. But also the most of the exoplanets that we've been looking at, as far as we can tell, do not have evidence of life. So like methane, for example, a lot of planets are scanned for methane emissions because that's a byproduct of a lot of bacteria and even multicellular organisms.
Cows.
Yeah, but honestly, if you get to Alpha Centauri and it's a cow planet, that'd be really super. Like you have almost a 0% chance of that occurring.
It would have been super fortuitous, though, if you were a manned
Yeah,
mission and you're like, wow, space cows.
yeah. Um, so based on stuff that we're looking for, we're finding stuff that more and more likely could hold life. Um, but we're not finding a ton of evidence that there's definitely life on planets yet. The other issue with the way we're searching, though, is like, for example, an oak tree can't be a tree because it doesn't look like a pine tree. That kind of like analysis. We're only looking for like life that we know how it operates on Earth.
Yeah, we're looking for a
It could,
specific set of things that may not look like that because our scope
yeah.
is too narrowed.
Well, that highlights. I'm going back and forth on my own points here, but that's me trying to show why I'm so conflicted on whether I can or can't say that
No,
there's other
absolutely. This is
alien
a
life.
conversation, so I'm interested in all sorts of like views on this.
Because the immediate counterpoint to what I just said, right, is we already know most of how the matter that we know about, like oxygen, hydrogen, all that stuff operates. That it's fairly likely that if we do ever encounter other living creatures, that they will have some semblance of a cycle like we do here on Earth. Just because it's probably going to be the same matter that abides by the same rules. And unless we can invent a process here that proves that wrong, it'll probably have to abide by the methods we see used in life here on Earth.
Right, because that's our frame of reference um
Well,
based on what we know.
like for example, most things that catch on fire have to catch on fire in the presence of oxygen, for example. Like
Yeah.
that is just like a rule based on periodic elements that you will find across the rest of the universe, and you can probably apply a similar principle as to why we, while not impossible to find something that uses a process we've never thought about before, it is probably highly unlikely based on being unable to change the unable to use a process that's already been refined over billions of years um, through rules set in place by how stuff in the universe works.
It is always super fascinating to me, because I'm by no way, shape, or form a scientific mind. I am just, an average. Oh,
Shadow's rating.
shit. Thanks, Shadow. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
the raid. Can someone shout
we're
him out? I say
we're
to my
supposed
mind.
to be talking about scary stories, and I've sidetracked us with talking about whether or not aliens are real.
We start. We snowballed. Thank you so much. Welcome, Raiders. This is Spooky Saturday. Just chatting installment where we share some spooky stories and have spooky conversations with our friends on the internet. Today I'm joined by Jotunn.
Yeah, hello,
Hello.
hello,
Um,
hello.
you
Make it
can
awkward. I'm
definitely,
sorry.
I definitely think you should check out his stuff. It's let me grab your real quick because it's twitch.tv and then it's Jotun. I
Should
cannot
be
see
_17.
underscore 17.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you, zombie. Bless you. Oh,
I am apparently currently playing Colony Survival. Apparently, according to this shout out.
oh yeah, because you were playing it last night.
Yeah,
Still playing it. Still playing it now. Even right now.
man, I wish.
So yeah, I actually am super interested. I don't know how much time you have available, but if you want to talk about to get us kind of back on spooky track,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
talk about the Kelly thing.
I have
Kelly
to look at what it's called again.
Kelly Hopkinsville encounter.
Yeah, so I know what it was about. I don't remember the name a lot of the time. So the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter, a farm family, so like 5 adults, 7 children. I believe I forget if they phoned in or if they came in person to the police station, but they reported being under assault from a bunch of small creatures that were crawling all over the house. They were in the yard. They were constantly peeking in the windows and the door and stuff. But all 12 people told the same story. And when the police showed up to investigate, all they found were bullet holes in the walls and stuff. There was absolutely no evidence other than the fact that their guns had been fired. There was no evidence at all to anything that had gone on.
Oh, so
And
this is oh, I just pulled it up. This is a
this is
real.
a real thing. This really happened. Well, the police side of things really happened. I can't confirm or deny the story side of things. Um, this was in 1955, by the way.
Yeah,
Um,
1955 near Kelly in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. It's recorded as the most significant and well documented um case in history. of
Mm-hmm.
UFO incidents, but skeptics are saying it's because everybody was super excited.
Yeah, so that's because there's no actual evidence that any of these creatures ever existed and that they weren't seeing something else, um, or even nothing.
Yeah, so
Uh,
looks
but
like I just pulled it up.
yeah.
Um, 5 adults, 7 children went to the police station claiming that small alien creatures from a spaceship was attacking their farmhouse, and they've been
Mm-hmm.
holding them off for gunfire for nearly 4 hours. Um, they had been shooting 12 to 15 short, dark figures who kept popping up at their doorway or peering through windows.
Mm-hmm.
Four, four city cops, 5 state troopers, 3 deputy sheriffs, and 4 MP from a nearby U.S. Army fort, Campbell, drove to the house. All they found was the evidence of gunfire and holes in the windows and doors made by the firearms. But you're right, everybody kept saying the same, they all had the same story, even when checked out.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
that's
and then
crazy.
the police came by the next day for a follow up, and the neighbors told them that they left at 3:30 in the morning, claiming the things had come back.
Oh, shit. So there's a lot, that's a lot to, that's a lot. That's a lot. I guess the family, some of the adults in the family were carnival workers.
Yeah.
Um, and that, yeah, exactly. The creatures had returned 3:30 in the morning, and the family was like, "Nope, we're out," and they noped out. They packed all their
Mm-hmm.
stuff and skedaddled. Um,
So one of the theories is that they were actually seeing great horned owls being aggressive, protecting their nests.
yeah.
Um, and that also the possibility that some people were drunk during this event.
I mean, even if they weren't drunk, like if we
So
suspend
so
our disbelief, if I'm already keyed up by something, all it takes is for one person in a group of 5 adults, one person to buy into, hey, there's something out there, and getting super excited. If I believe this person, I get keyed up, I get excited. It's that whole subjective view, like, okay, I have
the
to fit this to make my narrative.
the other thing is this coincided with a meteor shower.
Oh.
So so skeptics suggest that they could have misidentified eagle owls, which are also great horned owls, which are nocturnal, fly silently, have yellow eyes, and aggressively defend their nests. And that the meteor sightings occurred at the same time that would explain the bright light streaking across the sky and disappearing beyond the tree line, some distance from the house.
And, a
Um,
lot of people don't realize owls are huge.
yeah,
Like, until you've actually been up on an owl, you think of, like, cute little owls, but great horned owls are pretty sizable.
yeah.
So that could have been it. Or it could have been aliens.
Um, Creatures reported by the families are very similar to an aggressive pair of the local great horned owls, which do stand about 2/3 of a meter tall, which is about how big these were reported to have been. They're called the Hopkinsville goblins, by the way, because they had supposedly like big ears, upper torsos, short legs, long arms.
And horned owls specifically have little tufts. I could see that being ears.
Mm-hmm. Goblin's gonna gobble.
Armadillos keep digging.
This is also the origin of the phrase "little green men."
Oh, so this is the actual story where this came from.
So they were little gray men, and they were misheard in the newspaper reportings as little green men.
That's wild. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
a
so
game of telephone.
it also explains why most alien encounters are described as encountering grays, and that most people think aliens are gray, despite the phrase being little green men. It was a misprint / mishearing. Because it turned into a colloquialism pretty dang quick.
Did you ever see the film? I think it was like Encounters of the Fourth Kind or something like.
Signs?
No, not. I saw Signs. M
I
Night
have yet to see,
Shyamalan.
or actually, no, I've seen Signs now, but I enjoyed Signs. I've even read a book called Signs, which was similar.
There was a movie. This is gonna bother me. I'm gonna have to look it up. I think it was like Encounters of the Fourth Kind or something like that.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I believe.
No, it was a thing. It had, yeah, the fourth kind. Yeah, the fourth kind is what it's called. It was like a pseudo documentary that they had Mila Djokovic, who did the Resident Evil movies. Like she was portraying one of the people in the story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and basically everything takes place. It was like a dramatic reenactment of stuff that happened in Nome, Alaska, where they were trying to figure out what was going on with, like, everybody kept saying they were being abducted by aliens, and there was some. Let me look it up. I'm gonna look it up. Okay, here we go. Um, true event reenactment of true events occurred in Nome, Alaska. Psychologist uses hypnosis to uncover memories of alien abduction from her parents and finds evidence suggesting that she may have been abducted as well. Um, so the late Djokovic, she actually was portraying a real person in the film. And basically the whole thing is that I remember distinctly that they were talking about the different, like, what the aliens looked like, and one of the theories that was put forth in the film were that they were just big owls. Just like huge big owls. And that's what just reminded me of it. It's like owls. I don't have enough bird knowledge to know if they like chill in Alaska, but it's definitely interesting that, like, when you're so keyed up or you're so emotionally invested in something, that it could be something basic could easily be misconstrued as something else because you're already in that state of mind. Like when people do like little ghost hunts and they go in with a story of the area they're supposed to be ghost hunting, and every knock,
Mm-hmm.
every creak, that becomes evidence. It's super interesting to think about. Just because it's the difference between objectively looking at evidence and making a determination based solely on that evidence, not on your intuition or your interpretation of it, but based solely on that. Versus, I think there's like a show where this dude Zach Bagans, I remember his name because I just, you watch 2 minutes of him. Personally, I can't stand the dude at all. But he like goes in and like yells at ghosts apparently. Um, I don't know. But yeah, if you've never
Mm.
watched it, it's definitely a good watch. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a little funny.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know about that. So Kelly Hopkinsville, uh,
Yeah. Kelly Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
is the
Origin
goblins.
origin of Little Green Men. Yep.
What if, okay, I'm gonna spitball, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole. What if it wasn't owls? What if it wasn't little green men or little aliens? What if what they saw was a cryptid? or a series of
It was a
cryptids.
gnome.
It was the gnomes. But like, I mean, gnomes are about that size, right?
Yeah. I won't give too much away. I'm still working on the lore. I'm kidding.
Fair. No.
Um, it really depends on the artist. Really, they can be anywhere from the size of your hand to honestly the size of a dwarf from Lord of the Rings, so like 4 foot, 4.5 foot tall.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
even
Little side thing on gnomes. They were invented in the 1600s as part of some dude writing down lores from the in the area in Latin, and they're totally made up by him. They're not actual like myth.
okay. So another thought that I just had. Have you ever heard of a puckwudgie?
I have. I need a minor reminder of what specifically.
Okay, so they're basically like these. It's like a human-like creature. Um, and it's from the folklore of the Wampanoag people, but they're like 2 to 3 feet tall, and they're described as like little men in the woods who vanish. Um, they just, they show up and then they
Hmm.
disappear. They lure people into the woods to kill them, to their death, with
Yeah.
poison and fire and sometimes magic. Um, and I think the
Oh,
story was that the indigenous tribes at one point were friendly with these creatures, but something happened and there was like
yeah.
suddenly it was bad blood suddenly rift, so it just became where they just started like grabbing up people and like taking them in the woods or throwing them off cliffs or just all sorts of crazy stuff. But there's several pieces of folklore from the Wampanoag people explicitly depicting puckwudgies in the region, um, playing tricks on people up to and leading to someone's maiming, disfigurement, death. Like,
Hmm. I wanna correct something I said about gnomes being totally made up. The actual word gnome is made up to try to equate it to try to add it into Latin. But
okay,
it's a it's a culmination of a bunch of different legends. So like in because obviously Puckwudgies are an American thing. Because they're Wampanoag slash Delaware slash etc.
yeah,
Um, versus they're not actually called gnomes; they're elves in Scandinavian culture.
yeah, like Eifrounder, like they're
So like you said well Scandinavian and I believe other parts of Europe as well.
yeah, like
But
roots
you,
in
you gotta set your
Germanic.
porridge out. You, you gotta set your porridge out, otherwise they'll ransack your house.
Yeah, sounds an awful lot like Fey stuff, which
Yeah, they are. So I think the consensus with Fae, if you say fairy, it means someone who is a Fae. It doesn't mean the little pixie looking things people associate with fairies.
yeah, that's a common like misconception that
It
it's
has to do with how
specifically
you
one thing.
spell it. It has to do with how you spell it. Because if you spell it Fairy, you can equate it with a pixie. But if you spell it Faerie, that is a Fae as opposed to a little
Yeah.
pixie thing.
Like and the broad term Fey covers a lot of
Yeah.
different types of creatures.
Squares and rectangles, I like to say. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
No, I get you. Like even something like like the idea of a leprechaun could
Yeah.
technically fall under the classification of Fey. Um, but you wouldn't
Yeah,
expect a leprechaun to have wings and chill in flowers.
that brings me to because I use the username Jotunn. A lot of people think It's ice giant. It actually ice giants were called ice giants. And later were became Jotun because they were the most prominent feature of Jotunheim.
Yeah.
But in Norse mythology, Jotunheim actually contains most of the Fae of Norse culture, or not. If I believe I'm correct, if I believe what I'm saying is correct,
So if we're looking at like
like
Nordic,
like
no, like the Nordic view, and I can actually speak very well on this. The whole concept of what classify Jotun. Technically, all of the deities of that pantheon are part Jotun. Um, the
the Norse gods
first,
are all
yeah,
from Jotunheim
yeah.
originally.
So in
Yes.
the beginning of if you look into the actual Eddas and all that, um, the universe was it was hot stuff, cold stuff, and then the Gignagap between that, which is blank empty space. And between the two things, the ice and the fire, water developed, and from that sprang uh, Ymir, the first like Jotun, the first big giant, and then some cow. I can't remember the name of the cow. Um, but basically, from from Ymir came uh, Odin and his two brothers, and then they slew him and then used his body to build the universe.
Yeah.
It's really super interesting.
Yeah, so I like to tell people because I don't know if you've seen the movie Jotun. I have not, but it really embraces the wild creature aspect of it as opposed to the ice giant association.
I have not, but I will
Um,
have to look into that.
but yeah, so I like to tell people that it includes stuff like puckwudgies, wendigos, all that kind of crap is what you'd find in there.
Right, exact. I
Um,
mean,
because it's literally the indescribable creatures of the wilderness is how some portions of Jotunheim are described.
it to me, and this is just like from a purely like my thought process on something. It is super fascinating, making connections between different cultures and people, and their folklore and their mythos, their religious mythos, looking at different aspects and creatures in that folklore, and then comparing it to something similar in another one, and like noting how similar they happen or that they occur. Like you think about, so if we're looking at Jotuns, I'm sorry, I'm like taking us on a tangent, but I'm just thinking of it now. So if we look at the at Jotun, which is a giant, if we're just gonna for the sake of this argument, we're just gonna classify a Jotun as a giant. Giants are noted in mythos throughout so many different cultures. Different people. Specifically, when I'm thinking of if I'm looking up at the Wabanaki and the whole Iroquois in the northeast region of the U.S. into Canada, those stories of those people, the people of the dawn, at one point they were fighting giants, and then we look at different cultures around the world who list giants specifically in their lore, like way back when, as being a thing. So at what point do we say, okay, maybe giants did exist, right?
Yeah, so here's something that I have thought about for a while that kind of brings the paranormal into the normal a little bit.
Yeah.
Is what if trolls or giants or what have you were an extinct human species like Neanderthals or whatever? Because trolls in particular have a combination in folklore of both living with peacefully and fighting humanity. And the Neanderthal in particular comes from most of the regions trolls arose as a myth.
That is actually super fascinating. I love that. I love that idea. Especially when you think about. You hear a lot of like niche groups talk about um, different different aspects of early man, what that could have looked like, and those different um, if they existed during this. Like, because at one point, our common ancestor and Neanderthals were alive at the same time, and it's crazy because you look at them and there's definitely some similarities and differences, but
Hmm.
it's easy to think that maybe they would start out as trading partners or vice versa, or that they intermingled and could have. I mean, people as like people, human people, um, fight each other for the most ridiculous shit, you know. So it wouldn't
Yeah.
be far fetched that if there were different types of early man, uh, that there wouldn't be some fighting over like
Well, the descriptions in some of the folklore ranges from indistinguishable from human, acting just like human, all the way out to you can tell it's a troll based on the body features, like overly proportionate brows and noses for one, which is another Neanderthal
yeah,
thing.
that's a Neanderthal trait.
Um, and like I said, anywhere from quite literally they interacted very closely, like you said, trading or even getting nasty, all the way out to proper fighting, just creeping in and kidnapping could totally be a learned behavior of different species competing for resources, or even just, hey, I want that as a pet or a son or whatever.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess this kind of does fit Spooky Saturdays a little bit, but it's like ancient Spooky Saturdays.
We were talking about aliens earlier, and I feel
Yeah.
like my hair hasn't started elevating like the dude from Ancient Aliens, who like all of his memes. Like if you look at like his hair gets
Uh-huh.
closer and closer because it's like the slowest abduction ever. Like, uh, no, you'll have to like. I actually watched some. I like was like I want to see what all the fuss is about because my mom was like Ancient Aliens. The guy is so smart, and it's
Oh, we were laughing at an episode because they were like, we have absolutely no idea what this is for, and they were talking about what basically looked like a cheese seller.
yeah. And
It could
again,
be
that
anything. This is probably a little house. It's
it's
either a cheese seller or a crypt, dude.
exactly, and that kind of again that falls under that same kind of almost like a theme that we've been talking about, where like, is this a thing because we're seeing empirical evidence that leads us to that conclusion, or is this a case of you had a theory and you're fitting the facts that you're finding into that, or only picking up
Yeah.
the facts that support your opinion, um, or somewhere along that spectrum. It's just super interesting.
Yeah. They were also like, this probably lays on some sort of ley line. I'm like, or it came there naturally. Because they were talking about like a rock propped up on three smaller rocks. They were like, it must be some significance that this was right here. I'm like, yeah, because that's where the rock was. And they were like, let's move it a little bit.
Yeah, just put another one there.
The rock was already here. They just put it on the stilts. Why move it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. Or like the whole thing where it's like, how did ancient man build the pyramids or something crazy like that? Like they had to be been aliens.
There,
Aliens is
there's
the only
there's
resolution.
there's no evidence of a ramp. Well, it has been 6,000+ years. The sands around there have kind of worn on it a little bit.
Also, you think about when modern builders do something to, and again, I work sort of adjacent to the home improvement industry. When you have someone working on the outside of a house, they erect scaffolding to complete that job, and then when the job's done,
Hmm.
they take it down. So why would they
Yeah,
use a ramp for building the
yeah.
pyramids and then
People
just
were
leave it
like,
up?
"Where?" People were like, "Where's the evidence for the?" People were like, "Why would they take it down?" I'm like, "Well, for one, it was probably expensive as hell to import all that shit, so they just used it on the next pyramid." Just
Exactly.
took it down, put it on the next pyramid.
Yeah, like if you have a good scaffolding set, if you have good stilts for hanging drywall, you're not going to buy a new set for the next house you hang
Hmm.
drywall in. You're going to bring your tools with you to that next job.
So, this brings me to another thing. Here's a big reason I'm a skeptic of a lot of stuff, like related to the paranormal or aliens or all that. So, you
Mhm.
know how people talk about the pyramids being suspiciously well aligned, like to a line of longitude that like they're like perfectly perpendicular to the poles or whatever.
Yeah.
A simple trick of putting a stick straight up, um, literally stick a stick straight up in the sand. Mark where it is. When the sun rises, mark where its shadow is, and when the sun sets, mark where its shadow is, and then cut that in half, and you have a perfect straight line of longitude.
Exactly. My brother actually just said in chat, "You just got to get a stick, bro," which is
Yeah.
no, and even
Um.
even like when like they're, "Oh, it lines up with this star."
Yeah,
Um
and then
because
then
they can see it.
how did they get the base so perfectly balanced? Well, you get a big pool of water, and water goes to the lowest possible point. So you just measure how high it is on one side and how high it is on the other, and put a line across, and boom, you've got a perfectly flat surface.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm building pyramids, if I'm making that decision like, "You know what? I'm going to invest money in building a dope
Yeah.
ass pyramid." I'm not gonna hire shoddy workers to do it, like some dude off of like ancient Craigslist. Like, yeah, I could build a pyramid.
Hmm.
No, I'm gonna
Yeah.
find if I'm spending time and resources and dedicating workers to accomplish this goal when they could be doing something else, I'm gonna make sure that it's gonna be right the first time because it's gonna be a pain to fix that. So I'm gonna make sure that the
Yeah.
dude I get to like design this, the people I get working on this are skilled enough to do that. I'm not gonna get somebody whose job before building my pyramid was you know,
Hmm.
just like digging irrigation ditches. I'm gonna get somebody who's already doing masonry stuff because it
Hmm.
makes sense. It just
Yeah,
logically makes
I'm
sense.
not gonna get someone wallowing who's been wallowing in the mud their whole life to come design a masterpiece for me. I'm gonna get someone who's been trained by professionals, you know?
Absolutely.
Like there were people dedicated to this stuff. It was their job. um Tigers brings up another thing. It's like people forget that way back when they knew how to account for the curvature of the earth for things. That brings me to a point I was actually going to make next. Some dude with two sticks and a tablet calculated the curvature of the Earth to such accuracy that they didn't have anything more accurate until there were satellites. Um, there was an obelisk in northern Egypt and an obelisk in southern Egypt, and he had his assistant record which direction and how long the shadows were. At exactly noon, and use that to calculate the circumference of the Earth and prove that the Earth was round in 6000 BC. And people were like, "Oh, aliens must have given them this information." And I'm like, "No, you can recreate the experiment for yourself."
Anyone can do it. And that's
Yeah,
it's over
get a pair of
time.
popsicle sticks and a buddy on a phone call in the southern hemisphere.
No,
You
that's
can
a
do it.
real you could really do that. That's true. And it's wild to when we think about our ancestors, we think about people thousands of years like early man thousands of years ago. And we all just assume that they were dumbasses. Like for some reason, that's like the cognitive disconnect is everyone assumes that so many generations before you, everybody was just an idiot. Like that's not entirely true. I'm pretty sure just like today, there probably are dumbasses, absolutely, but there's probably
Hmm.
some really smart cookies up in there, and the people who would be making those discoveries and getting that knowledge and then dissenting that knowledge to other people, aren't going to be like the dude who's got the best grog and wants to just like complain about whatever. Like, it's not going to be him that's telling everybody all these advancements. It's going to be the dudes who had that thought, took the initiative to find objective evidence to prove that or disprove that based on like scientific method. Like, yes, we have a
Yeah,
standard scientific method now, but it's not so unrealistic and far fetched to think that there wasn't something similar back in way back 7,000 years ago plus. You know what I mean?
yeah. There's a hypothesis that humanity's always been at roughly the same intelligence level. It's just been the tools that they've had to expand it and the direction they've chosen to go with it. Like people think people in the Middle Ages were stupid, but it was really just the fact that they were really invested in coming up with war technology as opposed to anything else.
That's, that's super valid. That's valid. The whole war technology taking up so many of your resources, so you can't make advances in other aspects of
It
your
still
cultural.
happens today. It still happens
Absolutely. Look
today.
at the amount of money that gets put into public education in the United States versus the war fund. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but
Let's take a step back from
that's a completely different
politics.
thing. Um, I wow, we have gone on a rabbit hole. Woo! Well, that's crazy. We've just gone over a lot of stuff. So, um, I don't have any other spooky stuff to share today. Do you have any other spooky stuff to share today, or any final thoughts on?
I'm sorry it was supposed to be Spooky Saturday, and I kind of turned it into let's debunk all modern
Hey,
theories.
listen. I am always a fan of good conversation. And we kind of cryptids built pyramids confirmed is someone just put in the Amber just put in the chat. That's the pyramids are cryptids. Oh god.
Yeah,
I am a fan of any conversation. Especially, I like hearing other people's views on stuff and kind of like going through these conversations. So we did.
I figured it still falls in the paranormal
It absolutely
discussions.
does. It absolutely does. I feel like we still stayed on
Just
track.
more on the threshold of whether it's real or not, rather than trying to creep people out with it.
Well, I mean,
Um,
it's still creepy if you think about it.
I'll be back on February 12th, folks.
That's right. That's right. Jotun has.
I'll try to keep it actually like spooky stories
We
next
can.
time though.
We can. We can. We can keep it. We can keep it casual with spooky stuff. We can talk about ghosts, ghost stories. We could do something. We could figure it out. There are so many scary
Yeah.
stories out there.
This
Again,
mostly came out this mostly came about because neither of us were really fully prepared for today.
hey, that's correct. So we wung it. We did. It was a great time. What do you got going on? Like, do you have any projects upcoming that are super exciting you want to
Yeah.
talk about?
Yeah. I mean I've got one or two I don't know I'm ready to share yet, but the one that I'm currently working on, I do every Friday. We've got community games going on my channel, as well as some miscellaneous streams here and there when I'm really passionate about a game and want to show off to everybody what I'm playing. I've been trying to get my Discord to get more chatty, and it looks like it just started waking up the past couple of days. So if you don't see me streaming, I'm probably sharing a game in there. I've been doing doodles and stuff. I post very rarely to Reddit. When I say very rarely, I mean like once a month tops, maybe twice or three times a month if I'm feeling really good about it. Um, but
Oh, you post your drawings on Reddit?
yeah, same username as my Twitch, same username as my um. What was the other thing? Don't worry about it. I had an Instagram. I don't really use it. I use Reddit. Um, I should use my Instagram, but I just haven't sorted it out yet. Let's see what else was there. I will reveal I've been trying to get a community project going on. I've got both a community item, physical item, or not physical, digital item I'm working on that will probably, I hopefully have more details by the next time I'm on here. And then I've also got a actual like group project that I think Bunny's actually part of as well, but it's under wraps for now until that's ready.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Um,
S-
hopefully that both of those I hope to have done in February. One more hastily than the other. Um,
So what I'm hearing is that you've got a lot of stuff in the works.
I got a lot of
Um.
stuff I don't like to talk about, but will eventually want to share with everybody.
Okay. So you heard
Um,
it here, folks. Keep an eye out. Watch his Twitch. Check
yeah,
out his Insta. Check
and
out his.
it'll probably be on my Twitter. My Twitter's the only thing that's different. Which if you go to any of my socials, I think I have my link tree.
Yes.
Um, but
I
yeah, my
think
Twitter it's 17 Jotunn as opposed to Jotun 17, and that's because Jotun and Jotun 17 both already exist on Twitter.
that's some real stuff. I personally finding when you find a really cool name and then you try to get it everywhere, there's always somebody. Your link tree is on your Twitter. There's always somebody though that's got the same name. Like when I was making a dedicated email address for my gaming stuff, it all of my variations
Hmm.
of my username with like little spaces, it was so hard to find. And then you gave me that really cool idea with throwing the word detective in there because I am the world's greatest bear detective, in case you guys
Don't
didn't
give your
know.
email out on a public thing.
No, someone will get it. I don't know. But yeah, I so what I'm hearing though is people should keep an eye out because you will probably at some point disseminate really cool updates about the content you are creating.
Oh, yeah, just if you really want to know what's going on that I'm excited to share, most of the really big stuff pops up on my Twitter. If you want everyday updates, feel free to drop in my Discord. But yeah, I'm streaming every week, at least once a week.
Yeah,
Starting in
Fridays.
February.
I know.
Starting in February, it's probably coming back up to 3 times a week.
Ooh. So
Scheduled particular days. I don't know what specifically. Definitely Fridays. Always going to be group games on Fridays. I want to keep that rolling.
I love it. I know we do the 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. And
Yeah.
then whatever time
Seven.
zone you fall in, that equates to that.
Yeah.
Very exciting. I'm super thankful that you took the time out of your schedule today to hang out with us, kind of talk through some spooky stories. You shared that original piece at the towards the beginning, which I again loved it. Did not expect. Not going to spoil it for anybody who just showed up. You can watch the VOD later. Was not expecting the turns. It was
I can
definitely a good one.
I can probably save it as PDF and share to your Discord as well.
I would love that because I'm a huge fan. I'm honestly it was very well done. I was very excited. That was great. Um beautiful, beautiful. So yeah, if you guys in the chat want to check out the VOD if you haven't seen the whole thing, very exciting. Check out follow Jotun on Twitter, on Twitch. His link tree got dropped in the chat. We're very excited. And he'll be back hanging out with us on February 12th. Very exciting. Um, Next week we'll be doing Spooky Saturdays with my brother, Tigers. We're all very excited. I'm excited personally, so be prepared for that. It's been a real blast. I'm gonna sleep like a baby bear tonight. Um, Thank you again for stopping in. And thank you for everybody. Lord Shadow rated all the likes and follows. Definitely appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a spooky time. Is there somebody we can raid? Who's streaming
Um,
right now?
If you guys like Rocket League, we can stream. We can raid Joey 676. That would be such a whiplash coming from this, though. um, yeah. Ooh, Overlight's also playing Rocket League. I wouldn't be surprised to. Oh yeah, it's a tournament. They're both in it. Okay. Yeah, let's
Okay.
raid Joey.
Okay. How do
If
I?
Okay, so you can do it either if you open up your browser and go to Creator Dashboard, I believe, or you can just there's a command you can type in chat, but it's easier, in my opinion, to do it this way. Um,
Zombie just walked in here because I'm having a dumb.
yeah,
He's
we'll let zombie handle it.
let's be the most respectful that we can because I am awful at. Why did I not? I'm in the wrong spot. Um, there's a way to do it. Okay.
Is this your?
Uh, duh, duh.
Is this so? Have you streamed before, Spooky Saturdays, or?
2 times, and
Yeah, I don't really. I totally understand rating people. I just forget to do it a lot because I'm not in the habit. So
well, I
I
I like
totally
to.
understand where you're coming from about not
I'm like
knowing how to
how
do it.
there's a way to do this.
Yeah.
Um, let me. Yeah, can you set the rate up? Because I'm having uh just raid. I don't know. Just raid somebody. Too many
I
questions.
actually sent you Joey's Twitch if you guys wanted to read him.
Oh, I'm trying to tab, but I'm having dumbs. Oh, at some point the music stopped. Whoops. Um.
That was like an hour ago. Oh man. Oh well.
I don't know. Zombie's gonna do something because I'm having a serious case of the dumbs. Thank you guys so much for staying and enjoying this. Again, we're doing it Saturdays, spooky Saturdays, having different chats, going over lore, folklore, spooky, scary stories, original um, content we find on the internet. Um, very exciting. Jotunn has agreed to hang out with us a couple times outside of today. This is the second episode, so next week we'll be hanging out with Tigress. Again, if you haven't already followed Jotunn, definitely make sure to check his content out. Because
Thank you.
we're sure to have some good stuff going forward.
Yeah,
Um,
and definitely check out the Friday nights because Bunny Bear and Zombified Potato are both usually on.
that's true. I've been known to game poorly. Usually it's me being like, no, I've never done anything wrong in my life.
Tell you what, you and I both compete for worst play, so it's fine.
Zombie's like, I'm bad at games, and then proceeds to be great at games. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good times, good times. I know this last Friday we played, or yesterday rather, we played a wee bit of First Class Trouble. It was my very first time ever. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, check out the. If we get Dread Hunger, yes, Ty, yes. Ty wants to play Dread Hunger with us. But I think it's the raid starting. Oh no. Have a wonderful time, everybody. Bye.